Hello visionaries and welcome to our channel. In this video I'm going to be talking about the inner authority based in the human design system. So this is Raquel of Raquel and Davidian.com, Unleash Your Genius, and we're going to be talking today about your inner authority. Do you ever wish that you had your own GPS system? You know, something that was inside you that told you to go right, go to the left, take this course, do this, follow this career. Don't you think it'd be a little bit easier if you just knew exactly where to go and you weren't bombarded with so many choices and all the confusion and all of the well-meaning advice that you receive from your parents, from friends, from TV? It can be confusing out there. So what I'm going to teach you about today is the system of human design, which shows you the unique inner decision-making process that you have to lead, guide, and direct your life to what is the most fulfilling for you and lead you to your life purpose, lead you to a career that's satisfying, lead you to relationships that are going to be correct for you, and lead you to a life that you love. It sounds so crazy that there could be something within you that provides this level of guidance. So the first thing you need to know is that what you think you know may be your kryptonite. Now, what I mean by this is that you have to be willing to understand that your mind, or the way in which you're receiving information and processing information right now, may actually be the thing that's leading you in the wrong direction. So I want you to ponder this for a moment. If that voice in your head is derived from a source that you can't rely on, then are you sure what you think you know is accurate? So let that kind of seep in for a moment, because the information I'm going to give you is simple, but it's not easy to follow, because you're battling a lifetime of being conditioned by the mind, as we all are. The reason for this, I'm not saying I have the exact right answer, but from my perspective, is because we're in a process of evolving out of the mind, meaning the mind has gotten us so far and has created a huge evolutionary step for humanity, but it's now causing chaos and confusion, and it's outdated. So as we're moving into greater leaps and bounds in our technology, we need to understand that there are things greater than the mind. And no, it's not about being implanted with artificial intelligence so you can think more. It's about knowing that within you is infinite intelligence, divine intelligence that's coded in your DNA and in your vehicle intelligence. And if you can tap into that, then you're bigger and more expansive, and you have a greater understanding of the divine universal flow than any intel could ever give you. So, for example, do you ever think to yourself, I have to take action on this inspiration? I have to make something happen now, or I'll have no money, no support, etc. I need to prove my point. I'm certain I know what will fix me. I'm confused about my direction, but someone else will know what's best for me. We see this a lot in the spiritual community with people looking outside themselves for teachers, for gurus, for psychics, to give us direction, tell us that we're going somewhere, the proper place, this is the proper person for us. It kind of helps us with our anxiety, but what it does is it takes away our power. I am certain I've tried it all. So if you ever have those thoughts, or you're ever thinking this to yourself, then chances are, if any of these thoughts are happening, then you're not operating correctly. Meaning your mind is running the ship. Your mind has taken power and hold over your intelligence, the body, your vehicle decision making. So let's look at this from the human design perspective. 70% of the population has an undefined head. And what this means is that they have this pressure to try and solve problems that are not theirs. They also have the pressure to take action on these thoughts, as well as to make decisions based on these thoughts. And just in general, we're all conditioned, whether this is a white center for you or if it's a defined center for you, we're all conditioned to glorify the intellect. We're all conditioned to use our thoughts to tell us what action to take, how to take it, when to take it, and why to take it. That is definitely a huge part of our society and our culture and how we're trained in our schools and what we've learned from our parents. And what we've found in this system is that what it does is it leads you to a life that is filled with chaos, confusion, pain, and frustration. So without having the benefit of seeing all of your charts in front of me, which, by the way, if you do want us to look at your charts, you can go ahead and opt into one of our free gifts, and we can assist you in looking at your chart on a deeper level. But because, what I want to do on a large scale for all of you who are listening to this video right now is so that I can help guide you through this process, is to simply ask yourself if you've ever taken an action that led you into frustration, bitterness, anger, disappointment, pain, or results that were not as you wanted or expected. And if you look around, most people would probably say yes. And so what I'm going to ask you is, are you willing to question or challenge what your mind thinks is right for you? Now, this is a big question. And a lot of people are so conditioned that they don't want to challenge what they think they know. They're not willing to be humble enough to look at things from a new perspective. It challenges their beliefs. It challenges their ideas about the world or about themselves, and they feel uncomfortable. So are you willing to get a little uncomfortable? Are you willing to look at things and see yourself from a new light? If it means that you're going to have a life that is more fulfilling for you and can help direct you into fulfilling your piece in this puzzle, in this universe, and living the life that you're designed to live. So that's my challenge to you. Are you willing to look at your mind and realize, I don't know if this is right for me? And if you are, then welcome to your journey inside your unique decision-making process. This is a process that takes you out of the mind and puts you into your unique vehicle decision-making process. So the first thing to understand is that each person has a unique way of making decisions. And the second thing to note is that not one person is designed to make a decision from the mind. Not one person. So here's the thing. The mind comes in handy, and it can think, and it can contemplate, and it can, look at things from a million different perspectives, and it's a wonderful tool. As long as you're not using it to tell you which path to take, which life choice to make, which relationship to be in, which career to jump into. So you want to parse out the value of the mind and what it's here for, and experiment with using a different intelligence to guide your life. So the human design system is not a belief system. It does not require that you believe in anything. It doesn't require that you believe in me. It is not stories. It is not philosophy. It is a concrete map to the nature of being. It is a logical way in which we can see ourselves. Just the simple mechanics is enough to make a vast difference in somebody's life. The irony of what it is to be a human being is that we are caught at the surface of understanding and accepting our nature and the cosmos around us. We are just at the surface. It doesn't matter how intelligent we are. It doesn't matter the labels that we attach to that intelligence, whether we call it enlightened or we call it genius or we call it this or we call it that. There is a vast underlying ignorance of how our bodies operate. And this human human design system is a reading of your genetic code. Now, with the human design education, your genetic code can be read in detail. This is kind of a side note, but this is something that we are doing right now, is providing a human design education for people. So if that's something you are interested in, just know that is something we can guide you in, and it is profound. This ability to detail your aura mechanics or the aura mechanics of your clients obviously is profound. It reveals the complete nature in its subtleties. However, by simply grasping the surface mechanic, what this work aspires to communicate, you will have a grounding in this life that is immediately going to bring a difference to your life. Now, that's actually a quote from Ra Uru, who's the man who channeled the intel. And this intel is meant to be for everybody. I really don't like when we see specific people or schools that say they have the entire, they have the ruling of how this information is supposed to be disseminated, because this information is supposed to be utilized, integrated, and by each person, and then it's supposed to be mutated as it comes out into the world, mutated by each person's unique experience and shared, because you have to really experiment with this intel in order to make sure that it's correct and that it's useful. It's not about believing it. It's not about following the teacher or following the school. It's about utilizing it inside of yourself and experimenting with it, integrating it, and really feeling into how it is for you. It's a personal journey. So let me tell you a little bit about the different types of inner authorities that you might see. The solar plexus is about 50% of the population, and that's the emotional being. It's also called the emotional center. And if that's defined, then it trumps everything else in the chart because it's so powerful. So anytime the emotional center is defined, it will be the inner authority because it is more powerful. It has a bigger impact. It's like the entire ocean. It's the wave. It's the emotional system. The sacral is 32% of the population. The splenic inner authority is 9.26% of the population. The ego manifested is 9.3%. You'll see that with either manifestors or projectors, who are going to be ego manifested. And then the self-projected, you will see that with projectors, that's 2.58%, and the ego projected is 4.8%, and none is 3.47%. So those are the different types of inner authorities that you might have in your chart. And if you pull out your chart here, you'll see right here on the chart where we have a circle is where you'll find your unique inner authority. And in this particular case, it is the splenic authority. So we've been told to follow your heart, or follow, that inner voice, or follow what feels good, or follow your hits, your guidance, your intuitive hits. And what human design is saying is that, well, no, there's not really one thing to follow except for your own decision-making authority. And it's different for each person, and each person needs to understand their authority and experiment with it and utilize it in their decision making. So this is a calling for everybody to look at their inner authority, pull out their charts, and be willing to say yes. Be willing to say, you know what, I'm going to, for the next 30 days, the next year, the next 7 years, I'm going to experiment with my inner authority, making decisions based on what's correct for me, and see what happens. See if your life begins to change. See if things feel better. Because the mind is never the authority, whether it's defined or undefined. The mind will try to be the authority in life because of the conditioning from the parents, the schooling, the TV, just the collective consciousness. The mind is the spokesperson for the open centers, and it also second guesses the inner authority. So if the inner authority is telling you to go one direction, the mind will be like, that's not correct for you. Your mom told you that if you ever decided to be an artist, then you would fail and you would not have enough money, or whatever it is, that's just an example. So the inner authority, the open centers, what that means is that wherever you're undefined, you can hear that in your mind. You can hear the conditioning in the way that the mind is blah, 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 speaking to you. So that's really interesting. What that means is that the mind's blah, blah, blah is through the areas of which you've been absorbing and being conditioned by the outside world. So you can't really turn off the mind, but you can watch the interaction between the mind and the centers. And you can kind of feel the difference between where you're defined and what's correct for you, and where your mind is trying to throw you into the opposite direction. So here are the inner authorities, and I'm just going to go through this really quickly because they're very deep, and it does take experimentation, and it's a personal inner journey. And we do have a lot more videos that help guide you through this. Of course, we're here to work with you on deeper levels if you want to go further with this intel. But for now, I'm going to give you a brief overview of how to work with each one of these inner authorities. So for the emotional being, you're deep, and you really need to feel your emotions, and this alone can change your life. Most emotional beings are taught to not be so emotional, to not feel everything, or to, stuff down the tears or go in the other room. And, right when the tears start, they're always, don't cry. People are always trying to push it down. And partly that's because the undefined emotional being has to then process those emotions, and it's very uncomfortable if an undefined emotional being doesn't know and understand that they're absorbing those emotions. So for the emotional being, you need to know that you've got to wait 24 hours before you make any decision, and to really feel things. You're going to be more of a wave. You're going to have highs and lows, and it's really about feeling that, not giving any meaning to the emotions, but to really allow them and to feel them. The sacral is more in the moment. The sacral is a deep guttural yes or no, and we really suggest that everybody get a partner with this if you're a sacral authority, and to practice the sacral sounds, because you're conditioned out of understanding them. The sacral is like a sound that's really deep. It's yes or no. So you really aren't going to do well with people asking you open-ended questions. So you want to experiment with, are you interested in studying human design? Is it time for you right now to take a course in human design? So it's yes, no questions. There are some cases where the sound is really faster than the sounds, but those are particular cases, people who have that 34-20 directly up to the throat. There are different kinds of cases, but the idea is primarily if you're sacral, you got to drop out of the mind, drop out of analyzing things, get into the moment, and get into the For the splenic beings, this one's a little bit more complicated. If you need some support with this, definitely reach out. This is my center. I'm splenic. And the spleen is really something that should be moving on its own. And it should be yes or no, depending on how you're going to feel in the moment. It's the lymphatic system that's moving through space. And for example, if you're walking up to a restaurant and you just get the hit like no, you should walk away. If you should be with a person and you get a yes, it should be a yes or for now, or no for now. And it's really subtle, and it really doesn't speak that often, or it doesn't speak more than once. You really got to act on it, and it doesn't speak at all in the mind. It's definitely in the body. It's very subtle. If you have any type of motor that's defined, like an ego or root, something defined, it makes it harder for that spleen to be heard because it's very soft. So it's a really interesting authority. The ego is basically, following the heart. Simply put, that is really about feeling what feels like heart-driven and allowing that ego to guide and be a nice, healthy expression of the things you love. The G center, here you're going to see people that need to really look at the environment and look at what's coming forward for them and speak it out, kind of blah, let it come out, let people be your sounding boards and really talk it through until you understand what's a yes and what's a no. It's like through the vibration of talking about it. The mental authority kind of is similar to that. Also, you do need a sounding board. You do need to talk things through and allow some time to really have a neutral sounding board. The lunar is a little more complex. These are going to be for our reflectors, and they have a 28-day cycle. So reflectors, if you are a reflector, definitely explore human design on a little bit deeper level. It'll really give you some insight on your uniqueness. So the goal is to experiment with your unique inner decision-making strategy and see if it brings you a life of joy, satisfaction, success, peace, or awe. And just remember that it is simple, and each strategy has a simple way of being, but it's complex to move through the conditioning of the mind. So have compassion, pay attention, use this as an experiment to get you to know yourself on a deeper level, and have fun with this. This is what life is all about. Life is about knowing yourself on deeper levels and exploring the different tools in your toolbox. Here on this channel, I like to give you a lot of different tools. I like to look at things from different perspectives. I like to look at human design and spirituality and meditation and all different kinds of tools to assist you in your self-actualization and awakening to the greatest possible you that you can be. So thanks for being here. I have a couple of videos I'm going to list below to help you understand your design. I also have a free gift for you guys if you'd like to check that out. I'm going to put that in the notes, and please make sure to subscribe to our channel, like our stuff, and we'll be able to produce more videos for you. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day.